Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Ravens Outpost. This is, of course, Lee McNew, and this is my guest, Buck. How you doing,
Yeah.
Buck?
Hey. I'm sure everybody's seen my stupid face before. They know. They know.
We're working through some stuff this morning. He's got some awesome theories and done some really good research here and put together some stuff, and we're just working on that. And just bear with us, folks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my theories are okay. There are they're okay. They are brilliant, but no, the only thing that's true about that is the research part. I have done a lot of that, but otherwise, I'm trying to find that one because it was down the list, and I'm trying to figure out what. Oh, I know what I put in. Okay, I'll be able to pull that up then. That's the only one I didn't bookmark. I bookmarked all these other ones, even useless ones, and I'm like sitting here. And some of these maps, that's the thing too with maps. There are some that I found that do Bigfoot, and it's what we would kind of refer to as unique values, or I can't it's like it's basically they're little squares, and so they color code the squares, and it kind of will go from a light color or a dark color, like depending on whatever you want to do. Obviously, darker color is heavier density. Lighter color is going to be less. But like someone created one, and it's just you look at it and you go, "What am I looking at here? What is this conveying?" And that's the thing with making a map. You can't just throw a bunch of stuff on there and say, "This is where. What's your data sources? What are you trying to convey? What are your are you doing? What are your values? Your numeric values?" It's just a lot of stuff, and you have to make it aesthetically pleasing to a degree. Um, and so there's some I saved for bad examples because in some of my classes I'm taking unmanned drone uh, systems next semester in 2 weeks. Yeah, that sounds safe for someone like me to be flying around a giant mechanism, but with that, it's just you know um, in a lot of our classes though we'll one of them was find a one of my GIS was find a bad example, and I wish I'd found this one because it's perfect, it lacks almost everything that you need in a good map. So I was like, I'm gonna save this for a bad example. There's another one that sucked real bad too, but the ones I showed you actually I was not I was impressed to a degree because I'm like, especially the UFO hotspot. That was really interesting because it's got the Esri, anything that has Esri on it has gone through their database. That's where you pull ArcGIS. It's who, it's a reputable data source. And so anytime that gets pulled from that, I'm usually like, okay, but I could tell whoever made that map did their due diligence. It's well thought out, well done. They even kind of like combined, I don't think they did, but it's almost like got a little bit of a cluster feel to it, which I like doing cluster maps. Those are fun and come in handy when you have like the area I was telling you about, which is really odd. The border that the three states that come together, uh, Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That would come in super handy cluster right there because you would say, all right, somebody saw a big ass werewolf here 9 times. All right, put them all together, boom, you cluster them, big 9 on there. And it again though, it's kind of hard with anecdotal stuff like that too because people, yeah, I understand, anecdotals are what we go off of most of these things, but at the same time, it's hard to verify those things. Like you can trust the person, but putting the data sources out there, it definitely is interesting, but it just has to be taken with a grain of salt slightly. Not like it's like, oh, I don't believe this shit. It's more like, is this all correct? Did this person are they just a perfect liar? Like, because a lot of them have been. And so then you've got, you take 5 accounts and one is completely false. It even comes out as false. It kind of like, even if it's one, people are going to look at that. And that's just anything in the world that it doesn't pass the, people are like, well, how can we trust you if you have one of those in there? And it's like, I mean, but I've still got 4 other ones. And it's just people kind of, that's the problem with things in general and how we look at them is we are so quickly to discount things versus saying, yeah, that could be. I mean, I guess we're too quick to make declarative statements is the way I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, I mean, because all of these, like I said, that's why you got to gather multiple, and that's how I look at it. And from an academic approach or whatever, I say, okay, that one's cool. That one's hell yeah, man. There's something to that. And then, but you're like, okay, so if I like this, I need to figure out what backs it. How do I back it? And that's the problem. That's where I was it's not disparaging. It's just but with BRFO, they don't release all of their reports, and so for whatever anonymity's sake, or someone asks them. My issue with that is they made a KMZ file, Google Earth file, and it's enormous. I couldn't even really look at it because it's got a timeline involved, and I know how to do all that. I just was like, man, this is slowing my computer down. Shit. So, but I'm looking at, I look at my state, and I've discussed this with you before. 2 counties stand out, and they're very interesting geographically because they are literally situated. One is more towards the southeast. It's Anderson County. Okay. And then you've got Bullitt County, which I actually lived in for a time, kind of up here. So it's like these 2 are kind of at a diagonal position. Well, right in the middle there is the biggest, it's a biggest acreage as far as a forest that we have that's open to the public. Most of them knob forest is open too, and that kind of goes into it. So it has these 2 big connecting forested areas that split these 2 counties right down the middle. And I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't know if that's correlated factors or not, but it's interesting to see that these 2 have these over 20 sightings. But when I go and search for which ones are there or even some kind of basic documentation, there is none. It'll go from 20 something to 6, and then it goes to 20 to 0 for Bullitt. And so between KBRO and BFRO, whatever, there's a dichotomy there, and it's like, where is the separation? Where is the why can't we at least say this was seen this year or this season? I would be fine with that. You don't have to give details. I do appreciate their investigations. I think they're extremely thorough and just really good, actually. So my thing is, you don't have to necessarily put every detail out there, but just say, okay, we've got 26 reports. Let's list all of them. This happened in fall of 2002. That's it. You can even, if you don't even want to put the county, just put central, southeast, something. Put it in the roundabout, I guess, so that we can just better, for me, I would be able to ascertain better where are these things happening at. Because when you say you have 26 in Bullitt County's not very big. It's definitely not as big as Jefferson, where I'm at now. So if we could find where a concentration or a cluster is at, that's interesting to me. So I don't understand why. To me, it's just, I understand, protecting people or whatever, respecting people's wishes. But my thing is I have to at least put out some baseline in order to establish I'm doing my like science is not something that, it's not like, it's like if you went and discovered a new species and somebody lived next door and they're like, please don't tell anybody about this. I really don't want this, silvery haired woodpecker to get out, or whatever you want to call, whatever the hell you want to call it. This
Right.
3-eyed raven, whatever you want to say. No, that's shit. Is that Game of Thrones too? But I would just look at them and go, you literally have I'm not gonna put your coordinates on here, man. I'm not gonna put your dad but we need to document. If we didn't document things or in a taxonomic, put them in taxonomic groups, we wouldn't know. I mean, how are we to know anything's out there? How are we to know any animal is out there, any creature, anything? If everyone said, oh, I don't want it, it's after a while, it's like, dude, we have to establish where these are at. Otherwise, it just looks like I could create my own website I've seen 69 reports of this over here, buddy, and I've seen 153. Well, where? Well, I can't tell you that. I'm respecting everybody's wishes. And it's like 26 people wanted to, like 26 told you no. That, or you haven't updated your website, and it's just between your local affiliates and your national ones. So that's why I didn't really put that into all this. Like, I did look at there's all of this, but as far as maps and verifiable data or anything, again, not just kind of their research and investigations are pretty top notch. I was really surprised. I really like the classifications as well, but until I know a number that's fluid and aligns with, you know, everything, I don't know what to really make of that. I guess I can't really use it because I can't back it off anything. I can just say that, yeah, this is what they list, and that's it.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've been doing, I guess. But I got off on my little tangent here.
Well, that's all good, man.
No, I was going to say, I forgot to find the damn link. What shit is that at?
I have found a couple of maps I pulled up here.
I can't remember what it said. I don't know why this is the only one I didn't bookmark. It's because I think it's because I did all the screenshots and stuff. And I'm just going to be honest, I think I forgot to do it twice. So it's just kind of a dumb move. But it was, what the hell was that? Hell. But it's super interesting to just look at these things. And yeah, actually, where did I pull it? Well. You know what? Might have found something just as all right, though, I guess. Oh, yeah. So actually, Lee, it's funny enough, I pulled the, which one is this one here? Oh, Map Squad. That's a good one. See, that's a fun one. I appreciate that one. I like their little icons. That's a fun one. I didn't use that one because I had just come across it the other night and I forgot to revisit it, but I wanted to because I was like, oh, that's fun. It's a fun little one. And here's this one, though. And I actually just realized this is as legit as you can get. ArcGIS would, you know, typically they're not going to let people just throw up whatever. They kind of have to keep with, you know, I guess some form of like, we've got to be sort of official. And I understand, I appreciate it. But this is a really interesting one here that I just linked, and it didn't really link it, but you can copy that. Why does it not link stuff in the chat either? Oh no.
I think I might be able to. You can send me maybe in private chat. Drop down in private chat. I might be able to do something.
Here, wait a minute. I got you. Try that one out. I sent it to your messenger there. I forgot you said that, but that one is the one I sent you the other day, and that one is really interesting because it's, for one, it's uploaded to the actual arcgis.com website, but it's just it definitely, again, with these kind of areas, it does align a little bit with variations, of course, to all the maps I've been looking at. Like, that's kind of what I based all this, just looking at these things through, is all the hot spots with this kind of go up against the other one. See, I wish I could find the...
And this is just strictly UFO sightings.
Yes, that's just UFO hotspots. It's a heat map that somebody created, and it, let me see.
But, you know, just going with this right here, and it's crazy, but looking at this one and moving over to this one right here.
Which one's that?
This is Bigfoot, UFO, and more sightings.
Is that Crypto Crew? Yeah, that's another one out. That's the one I actually first looked at. And that's in that very, if you were to look at, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone real quick, like at this tiny, I don't know, I can't just look at it on the laptop, but I'm crazy, I guess. That's how I kind of like came up with, I looked at the Cumberland, right outside of Daniel Boone Forest, the Cumberland, Kentucky area. I've actually visited there. I thought it was, it's a very beautiful area. Cumberland Falls is awesome. Been to Tennessee in that area too. That's what I found so interesting is like around that border where in Virginia, Big Stone Gap and such. And I sent that to you too.
I see what you're talking about here, right here in the
Yeah,
corner. I
and
mean,
see,
it's bunched up right here.
and how I looked at that is, and it's not exact,
Brian.
but I guess my thought process is I started looking at UFOs before Bigfoot. So I would say, okay, did they see a UFO in 2013 and then they saw Bigfoot after the fact? And that's where I kind of had an issue with looking at other hotspots out west. Washington State is the number one. It's the highest of both across the board. That's across everything you can find, actually. But sometimes I would see Bigfoot happen in like 1977. Then you have a UFO in 20, I don't know, I'm trying to think, 2007. So you're sitting there and you're like, okay, big gap. Did Bigfoot bring them or does the UFO, like who comes first, basically? But so I kind of looked at it from, I guess, a more linear kind of logic of UFOs first, Bigfoot. And so in that little area there, I found a couple pockets, Wallens, I think it's Wallens or something. I'd have to look through my notes. Kentucky, Central Kentucky, just to, whatever, canvas it. There was UFO in 2013, and then they had two preceding encounters or Bigfoot sightings, 2016. So, yeah, there's a 3-year gap there, but it's just interesting. Like those little pockets, I was like, that's kind of how I was looking at it. So someone could say, well, that's not how I'd look at it. I wouldn't look at the timeline so much, but I guess it's just how my mind works. Is I was like, oh, that's kind of, with the UFO, I'm like, did they bring them? Possibly. Let's look at it from that angle, and that's kind of how I looked at it. And so, and I wouldn't think Kentucky, because we don't really, Kentucky's not really. I mean, we do have sightings, but I wouldn't have thought of it like in that little section there, that triangle area, not triangle area, but that little kind of corner where all 3 states, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia touch. I wouldn't have thought of that as like an area where there's heavy and predominant activity. And that's the only reason that map, I definitely went off of it and used it and wrote down. But I was wondering who created it or how they created it, because it seems like it's predominantly more sightings or more mapping done for that region there. I don't know if that's just because there is more, but out west, I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion too. But I thought it was kind of heavily laden on that southeastern portion there, whereas the west I thought should have a whole lot more. So, because they just should. Pacific Northwest. I mean, that one, if I can find it again, because I keep getting off on my little tangent. That one, again, it's odd. It points to. Can you just share images, or does it need to be on a website? Like if I send you images, are you able to share those or? I can't hear you actually. I was wondering what was going on. Did you get muted or?
I muted myself.
All right, there we go. So I was just gonna like let that. I was just like, okay.
So I've been really interested in how all this fits together. With
Yes.
UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings. After that interview Stan Gordon had with Wes Germer. Wes Germer interviewed him, and he was talking about how he was with MUFON, and
Yes.
they started doing all their research starting in about the mid '60s, and early 70s, and there was a big explosion there here in the
Yes.
East,
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia area.
Yeah, Chestnut Ridge. What was it? Westmoreland. All these in Pennsylvania, I think.
Hmm.
Kecksburg incident, and it was like 73 to 75 or 76.
Right.
And Stan Gordon, I definitely appreciate his way of doing that. He's a, a funny individual, but I just appreciate, I guess, his way of doing stuff because he's kind of never bought into a whole lot of BS stuff. He just kind of sticks to what he knows, and you know,
And I
definitely.
totally respect that.
Yeah, I do too. Because I'm like, we don't need all that other like conspiratorial bullshit. It doesn't really um, lend any credence. I mean, if you're gonna someone like that comes from his perspective, I think lends a lot more credence to these topics and such because he doesn't get lost. It doesn't bog down. It's just very straightforward and the believability goes up because it's just like he's not trying to sell you anything. He's not grifting. He's just this is what it is. And he's been doing it for a long time. So a long time. Well, see, that's it. I can see where Mac. The only problem with that, I would say, because I'm reading Max's thing,
Mhm.
psychological issues. I definitely think are yes, it's an important thing to take into account the state of mind of somebody, but we can even walk that back slightly and say what's the believability scale on it, because if somebody is mentally or psychologically, there's always a little bit of a tell. There's always a way to kind of pick up on that. And so if we did do psychological tests or anything, I don't even know how those would be made up. But I mean, yeah, that's getting into more and more niche and weeding things out.
Right.
As far as cannabis use or anything like that, I mean, that one's a little bit more. I don't know how to, because people are instantly just going to discredit anyone like, oh, you're on drugs, because everyone always says or a lot of sightings, not everybody, a lot of sightings, people are like, I'm stone cold sober, I hadn't had a blah blah and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, nobody asked, but all right, that's
Right.
cool. Like now I'm starting to think you weren't. No, but no, it's just like people say that a lot, and I'm like, so having that kind of precedent there already, I think a lot of times if someone's like, yeah, I hit a joint, or yeah, I took a hit off my vape, only one, and then I saw it's like people are instantly like, oh, you were high, forget it, or you were this,
Mhm.
and it's like, so that's going to get just thrown out immediately. I feel like I don't think that's going to be, even though I personally wouldn't do that, especially if but it's hard to tell. Like somebody could say they did one hit, maybe they're sitting there sucking the damn thing down and they're fucked up out their mind. I don't know. I mean, maybe
Right.
somebody's been drinking too. There's no way to, it's like weed, alcohol, all of it, substance abuse, or not substance abuse, but using substances, um, or having the imbibed any. It's hard to, you know, lend credence to how much, when, and is anyone else going to be okay buying this? Because if you were to say you were sitting, someone's telling you, discussing the taxonomy of salamanders in the caves out here in Kentucky. If they're drunk off their ass or they're sitting there taking swigs of, taking shots, I'm going to be like, oh, what's going on here? Are you okay? Like, for one thing, is this salamander shit fucking you up that bad? What's going on, man? But also, I would just be like, this is weird. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you? So, I mean, it's not exactly a lateral, but it's anytime you're discussing something like this, if someone's, a little bit under the influence, it's going to be hard for me to back that. I couldn't go tell someone else, and this person shows up and they're kind of like this, and I'm like, no, he's smart though. You don't get it. He's oh shit, get out of here. Like it's just like
Right.
you screwed this up for me. But so I definitely think those are very very interesting. Um, yes, and so population. Well, that's the thing I'm trying to find again is the per capita sightings, and that's what's probably the most interesting of them all. Is let me just look here real quick. Journeys, what the shit is that? But let's see.
That's a
I'm
good
going back
point.
through my history now because I just can't find it.
I hear you. Papa C says, in my experience, smoking pot in the woods caused me to miss everything going on. I've never had any good enough to have real good hallucinations.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I damn it the hell, where it's like this is just really weird. Oh, I can't find it so easily. Like I found it the other day. Fine, there we go. I think I got it now. I found it. Large map, blah blah blah, all that dumb shit. Where are you fucking at? That's on Google. That's not even showing up in my damn. I'm glad I took screenshots of it then. Shit. It's not even like, it's really not even showing up in my history. Weird.
But taking, comparing different sources and seeing how quickly they line up. Use this one right here, the quirky fun one. And
yeah.
Then, this one right here. See all kinds of different stuff here.
Yeah, that one.
Question marks. And then there's the hotspot map.
And see, someone made a biome, a Bigfoot with the density of the U.S. with biomes, but I think it's a little bit like heavy. If that, it's a little bit dense as far as how they did their symbology. They created very, very little ones, and like as far as like where the sightings are and the biomes are, so it's kind of overwhelming. And their biomes, I don't think they needed to add as many as they did because it's the United States. We don't have some of the biomes that, I mean, we might, if we do, they're very minor. It wouldn't be something I would have added in. I would have kept it to mostly, actually, I probably would have gone with climate and then gone off of biomes like that. In a way, I would have combined the two. But anybody who makes a map, these maps like that are pretty friggin', God, they're just, a lot of work can go into them, a lot more than people think. So this is what I don't understand though. Like,
a lot of these areas where it's really highlighted, like in this map right here, you'll hear, of Bigfoot sightings and then events of what I like to call high strangeness. Most other people call it.
Yeah, I know. High strength.
Yeah, the high strangeness part. The UFOs and the paranormal encounters. It just all matches up with here. And you look at the density where it's at as opposed to this one. I mean, they're pretty much the same map. And then you look at this right here, the hotspot map, and it's crazy at how just the UFO encounters.
Well, that's why I want to find this one, because like this is a good one too. Actually, I didn't reference it, but I did see it the other day, and it kind of touches on the population thing, and it has normalization in there as well, data normalization for the populations of UFO and Bigfoot sightings. So that's another interesting one someone created. And again, some of these that like this are straightforward, so they may not, they don't, I don't know if that one says anything about correlation there, but one of them kind of hints that there is none, whereas I don't think that's exactly true. I think going straight off the data, and not looking at patterns and areas, the hotspots. I think if you ignore that, yeah, it's very easy to look off the data and say, yeah, there's no correlation because the data is going to point to that. Or little correlation. It's not there is none. It's little. So even with little though, if you look at the patterns that you see, the hotspots, cross-reference, you start to see that there is, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely something, and it's bizarre. And it's kind of like that map, like I said, the one I'm still trying to find. I just have the, I mean, if I don't know if you can share it. Let's see. Yeah, where the hell? I don't know how to use a goddamn thing in this thing. There we go. Where are you at, you bastard?
Let's see if I could blow this up just a little bit here.
But like that one there, like it's Indiana, for instance. On this map, it's it clocks in at the below average, and it clocks in at below average for Bigfoot, but above average for UFO. But then on all sides, it's surrounded by states that just clock in at Bigfoot more than UFO. So it's like, and above it, it's got both. The state above or whatever, what is it, Michigan? I think it's Michigan. Is that Michigan? Shit, I don't know. I got it all written down. I don't want to say anything wrong here. Yeah, on all sides, it's bordered by states: Kentucky, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan.
Right.
And it's like, you know, there we go. Yeah, if you're, thank you. That's mostly what I wanted to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Now I don't have to search that fucking website anymore. God damn it, I cannot find it. I'm gonna look after this because it's irritating me, because it's like I found it so easily the other day and now I can't find it. But anyway, that's what's interesting is you look at these things and it's like below average for Bigfoot, Indiana. But then if you look at the UFO hotspot, a lot of there's a hotspot around Indianapolis. So that's the thing. It's like on all sides you have these very bizarre, like it's very bizarre. And again, though, this data has been normalized, and because it's per capita. So again, if you didn't do, that's what's even more interesting, though, actually, for Washington and Oregon. Even with that normalized, they still are above average for both these things. And that whole section there through the, you know, Pacific Northwest and Western region is split with a bunch of green states, a couple of blue, and then again, another kind of weird one, Oklahoma, just sitting there, red, surrounded on all sides by all the colors. So again, the data normalization can cause some skewed things there, especially Texas. And Florida. I don't believe Texas and Florida. Then again, I don't know. If I'll be honest, if I was either a UFO or a Bigfoot, I would avoid both those states.
Yeah, no
They
kidding.
should avoid Indiana too, but that's on them. That's on them. But it's just it's interesting to see some of these kind of pop-offs, and West Virginia too. That's a really interesting one. But that's where it's like you look at the other map, the Crypto Crew, and you see Virginia and Tennessee fall below average on both. But then Crypto Crew has tons of sightings through there, and you know, it's interesting to even compare this, which I haven't done yet, because I'd want to find several of maps, not just one, of cave systems. I don't know that they're connected, but someone did bring that up to me, and you know, it could be. I mean, that goes into a lot of things. Caves could be a hiding spot. I mean, caves could be, you know, anything really. We don't know. I mean, how deep they run. I mean, if they're unexplored and stuff, we don't know. Same as this. This is all stuff we don't know. This is just merely data sets I'm looking at. How I feel about all of it, my own personal opinion is whatever. I just think looking at these, it's interesting, especially what you've got pulled up now. Like I said, if you look at that spot, all of that spot, because I've been through that area twice now. I've been to Daniel Boone Forest, Cumberland, Kentucky. I went down through there to travel to Tennessee and towards Cookeville and Dayton. I can't remember where, Pikeville. That's what Pikeville, Tennessee. So I kind of go through all them, and Big South Fork is right there too. And so you know, I don't know if this correlates or not, but bodies of water, a lot of bodies of water there, and forested areas, canopy, nature. And so, you know, and this all stems from my thinking the other day of, people usually think of space travel and ETs like they're more advanced than us. And I say ETs loosely. I don't really think of them as, well, I don't know what I really think of them. It's a loose term just so like people can get the label, I guess. Know what I'm talking about, I mean.
Right.
What if they're not as advanced? What if they are more advanced than us, which we aren't as much as we think? We have capabilities, but we use them for kind of goofy shit, and in between all the good stuff. But what if these ETs, they're not as advanced, and space travel is not like popping out of a wormhole or zoom and you're there within whatever. What if it's more of like a rotation like the planets, and they have to kind of even swing off of the gravitational pull of certain planets to loop back around? What if they've come, because the universe is so vast, what if they visited us at Earth at a different time where humans didn't exist yet, but things like Homo erectus, Homo habilis did? And we're talking with those two 1.6, 1.8 million years ago. And so, some people think we're alone in the universe. So far, we haven't proven that we aren't. What if this same cosmic being, whatever race, thinks that they've been alone, and then they come across us and they go, holy shit, we're not. But they didn't really, I mean, it goes into a whole bunch of it's a sci-fi novel, basically, what this theory is, in my opinion. So I don't put much credence. It's just fun to think about. What if, though, they collected DNA and were able to engineer something of an ambassador to us through that, thinking that we can assimilate into the population if that's what they wanted to do by genetically engineering beings taken from samples from whatever was on this planet at the time to replicate the appearance, if that makes sense. Again, it's not a very good theory, but it's just kind of fun to think about, because it would explain maybe then, I don't know, it's just so many things go into it, and it sounds kind of stupid saying it out loud. But basically what I come to is, what if Bigfoot was a miscalculation, in genetic engineering, biological engineering, to act as either an assimilated population to observe us, real time, or act as ambassadors to say, look, we are like you, even though they don't look like us, and they're maybe it's their concern, it's their vanity, they're self-conscious. No, they look fearsome, or they look horrible. I don't know what. It's just they would want to replicate, though, to ease the communication, to bring comfort, to bring, does that make sense? It's kind of just two little things. I would more think, and this is more human thought, so it is, I would think assimilation is more of the I guess goal, to observe remotely another planet, an alien species, assimilation, if you can do it. And that's what I mean. Like, maybe they're more advanced than we are, but they're still not as advanced, because it's to think that anything can conquer space in its vastness is kind of, I get, my mind can't wrap around it. I really can't.
Oh, absolutely.
My thing is why I brought up the looping around, though, the rotational kind of thing is what if this, again, they can't revisit Earth for so long, but they, again, miscalculate, have just think, oh, this is what it is. When we come back, we'll be able to provide ambassadors or assimilation. They come back and they go, oh shit, what happened? Because maybe they don't experience evolution in the way that we do. Maybe they don't even have an evolution. They just are, and they exist, and that's the end. And so they come back and they go, but we created these things and we filled in the gaps, almost like Jurassic Park. Again, it's very novel. It's what would be an ambassador? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm wondering if you say, what would we be the ambassador to? Because we would be doing a horrific job of it. We literally, if you dropped us off on this planet and thought they're going to be ambassadors, and then they look back and they go, that's not what we meant. You're kind of killing the fucking place. Like, it's like going to a house party and breaking every window, and it's like, why are you doing this? And it's like, I don't know, because it needs to be done. Are you gonna fix it? Well, hell no. I'm gonna break this next one. So I don't know. I just it was more of a fun thought that like maybe ETs are just kind of incompetent in some regards, and they bring back these things that they think will look kind of human. They're a little bit bigger, well, a lot bigger, because they miscalculated. Like, fuck it, it's close enough. And then they get back and they go, oh God, this is really bad. It doesn't look like this anymore. These things don't look like this anymore. Fuck. And then it's like, just drop them. Who cares? Double down. Just drop them off anyway. And so it's more of a fun thought. It's more of a stupid fun theory, because it'd be fun to think in that regard of that's why Bigfoot cannot communicate with us. That's why they are more fearsome and elusive, and or they're more fearsome to some people, but they're more elusive. And it's because it's like, you dropped us off, we can't communicate, pull us the fuck out. And it's like,
right,
we can't, we left. We'll be back in 1,000 years. I'll see you later, bro.
I mean, I've thought about certain things, and it's not, it's not just Sasquatch. They're elusive, and it's so crazy rare to see one. But then you've got things that we know exist that seem so foreign. You take the duck-billed platypus for one. That's a strange freaking animal. Damn, if there is any case for a chimera, there's that right there. And then you've got the octopus and the squid.
Yeah. What the hell is that? And that's almost, that's a good point, Lee. That's what I was going to say, because the what is it? The variants of all this shit, like bat squatch, see all this sheep. What if there's like, again, it would be like a biological, like what we, and I'm not good at these obviously because I didn't do the assignment because I fucking hate these things, but like a cladogram where it's like this species and then branches up, boom, over this, and so maybe they get down here and they evolve, and these things could even have a built-in life cycle, and hence why they smell the way they do. Or that could be residue from, these, because again, you can put out there very wormholes, vortexes. Maybe the way that they come into this atmosphere causes this wretched smell that people, account for. What I've even smelled, because I'll tell you, I mean, when I smelled it, it was pretty damn awful. It's unlike anything. It's not regular. That's the one thing I always say. It is not. People always say, was roadkill? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you don't get goosebumps, chills from something. That's what I got from it, because it was unnatural, and it was a visceral reaction. And that was 3 years ago. Last month, I'll never forget that, though. Never saw anything, but and even driving in a car, that kind of scent at, just cruising along 20, 25 miles an hour, just kind of watching a deer. God, it was overpowering and pungent and just there immediately. And so when people recall those, that's one of the biggest things, I guess, for me. What are besides seeing it for yourself visually, what are the other things that happen? Because I've only seen a few things visually in my life that I could not explain. And, I mean, last one was 20, almost 18 years ago. I've mostly heard, smelled, funny enough, and almost sensed things. And so, with those kind of, I feel like people would be dismissed if I just smelled something, but it's like, no, where I grew up, yeah, roadkill, it's not pleasant. This was not that. I don't know what the fuck this was. It was unnerving, honestly.
Right.
So, that's what I'm saying too, where that happened too. That's where I'm open to all theories, because it's like, what if these things do kind of come through a vortex, or parallel, like the universe parallel, whatever you want to call it, the way that things are, they just kind of sometimes, again, I've always said this, like two planes or something just kind of brush up against each other quickly, and something drops through.
Right.
Same for us, because all these missing people, because, I won't go into, I don't really attribute to the 411 just because of those attached to it, but are there some really weird cases out there of missing? Fuck yeah, Tom Messick's a weird one. The hunter, 82 years old. Everybody's always 82. look at the whole story, it's fucking bizarre. Don't know how that happened.
Indeed, it is. It is.
Do you know what I'm talking about? He had
Mhm.
the war veteran. Yeah, dude, that
Yeah.
one. To this day, how enough? If he did die immediately, like, how did y'all not find him? Like,
Right.
it's just crazy. Kenny Beach is another bizarre one. Everyone, the prevailing theory is that he killed himself, but I'm not really certain that he did. He definitely had some issues and mental health issues, as well as financial issues that weighed on him. But he was excited to find he found a cave, evidently, that had some kind of magnetic anomaly to it out in the desert. Because I haven't heard, I remember hearing this story or watching a video and reading up on it a couple years back. So I just might get some of it wrong, but it was out west. And he liked to hike a whole lot or discover shit. He found his cave, magnetic. I mean, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Kenny Beach, but he found his cave and then he wanted to go back and find it. And then that's when he disappeared, and everybody thinks he killed himself, and he did it in the cave where no one's going to find him. And out west, that's a good theory. That's a very good theory, actually. And that's, Occam's razor. It's probably what did happen. Do I believe that? I'm iffy, because I just know that excitement of finding something, even when you're in a full disclosure, when you're in a not a great mental state, you find something though anomalous. You're like, dude, I am super pumped. This is fucking cool. Like, I gotta see what this is. And that's where it's like, why would he kill himself if he was pumped up about this stuff? Why would he go out there unless he got lost and but he was pretty experienced. So it's another really weird one where it's just like they've never found him. And so, in some of those 411, they ended up, again, that's why I don't really care for, they found some of these people, they found their bodies deceased after they've been written about how they're mysteriously, it's like, no, people just get lost and fucking die in the woods, man. Like, it's pretty easy to do.
Exactly.
I mean, conditions, if you're out in the wood, you're not prepared, you're kind of screwed. And so you might live for 20 days, but if you're in a big forest national park out somewhere in the west, especially the west, man, search and rescue, and if they don't exactly know where to start, I mean, it's not on them. It's just so much land to cover and terrain, and so a lot of these people are probably still out there, and it's just probably in places that's just been overlooked, and it's sad. It sucks because these are real people that shouldn't be sensationalized and like, oh, what if something mysterious got them? I mean, yeah, what if? But I mean, did you talk to their families about this stuff? Did you really do your? I mean, I don't know. I just don't agree with all that. But aside from that, there are some very weird cases, and that's why that has some, not for me, but that's why there is some credence to it, and people pay attention, because there are some, like Tom Messick, where it's like, wow, like, it's really, really bizarre. And there's other ones too. I think a bow hunter, that was kind of a weird one too, a couple years back. But and there's one case that really unsettles me. I don't remember his name, but he was a professor, old or elderly, and his mobility was limited about as much as Messick's, if not more. His assistant was out with him, and unless his assistant murdered him and left him out there or hit him completely fine, and somewhere no one's gonna find him, this guy just vanished with limited mobility out in the middle of the woods, and in elderly too, like in his I think 70s or 80s, just like Messick too. Bizarre. How do people just disappear like that? And yeah, tall ones right there. Hell yeah, buddy. Hell yeah, right there. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. Somebody that's been on the ground and sees that. I mean, it is. It's a grift. It's a grift. Let's just be real. The dude's a grifter, and that's why I don't appreciate it, because he won't print retractions when he does get when people are found. That's really, I'd be livid if it was my family member. But and that's where people like you are important. The tall ones being on searches like that, because search and rescue it's volunteer mostly, so it's very hard to get people to want to do this in the first place. Like so, and with limited resources, so that's another, but it's another kind of thing that if you look at all of this, where does all the missing persons go versus these hotspots versus this and this? Does it have any correlation? Maybe not. But if they start matching up, it's kind of like one of those things you just file away, you keep there, and you say, I don't know, but just keep it there. And then you look at, there's a bunch of things, like cattle mutilations. That's actually one I would really want to look at. And I've thought about that this morning, looking up, because I mean, you right there, another person that we know is dependable, and that's you. You have seen this firsthand. And that to me, man, I think if you have anything that correlates with these hotspots, it would be those. And that's the one thing, man, that really just that little fun theory I had blows it completely up. Again, that's why I said it's a sci-fi novel, because it's just a fun thing to think about. Like, maybe they're as dumb as we are. Really, though, it would probably be a lot more brutal and nasty, and we would probably be eradicated. Simply because they would look at the resources and say, they're using these up too much. We want them, just eliminate them. I don't know. But, you know, it's just, that whole little theory gets blown out of the water, because if I'm thinking that they do, if these align, what's going on? That's very troubling, man.
Right.
I mean, whatever that did that to that little animal, like, what did that, man? Like,
yeah. I mean, I showed you the pictures before I did anything.
Yep.
I showed you, I showed Max, and one other person, the photos that were sent to me. And when I interviewed Matt and Heather, I asked them if anyone else had mentioned anything about missing cattle or anything like that. And they said where they're at, nobody's talking. If something has happened, nobody said anything. And there are cattle farms all around there. It's in Floyd, Virginia. I'm here to tell you, it's really, really rural, right off the.
I think I kind of got
the parkway.
Yeah, I kind of looked at the mapping, and saw that myself. And there is a roadway, not super far. So, am I correct? The parkway. That's another weird thing. And that one is that one's not. So I would have to create my own data sets, which I would. Yeah. These places are not. They're rural, but they're not point blank. You got to drive however long to get to them. You know,
they're not inaccessible, right?
Yes. So there is still some civilization to it. It's almost like if someone was pulling this shit, which I have no idea why they would do it. It's like they are planning it to say, look, there can be human involvement, though. Someone could drive in, but then it's like, why? Why the hell would they? Why would they do this? And to what end? And if people want to say, when you first told me that, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I saw it and I said, somebody had to do this, right? Like a person had to do this shit. Right. But then you start looking more and you're like, well, wait a minute, how would they do it though? Why would they do it? Why the fuck would they do it? And then people say, well, satanic and cultic. I'm like, but why? Why the fuck would they single out this one location? Think about it. One person couldn't do that. So it's at least two. Let's just say it's at least two. They're taking a big risk of getting shot on site. Getting shot on site, for one. For two, fucking it up, getting caught, arrested. I mean, it's just like, for what? When you can go very easily within your own proximity to somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like somewhere else that's, I just don't buy that. And why would you,
I mean, it's Floyd County, and it's, like I said, it's rural, not inaccessible, but very rural, and everybody there has a gun. Everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, man. I got gun. I mean, out here, our firearms. If somebody's out there and they look suspicious, I'm going to ask you one time, what are you doing? And then the next one's going to be probably buckshot at your legs, and I'm going to say, if you come back, I'm going to put them through your legs. If I still don't like how you're acting, I'm going to just put you down, center mass. I'm allowed to do that. It's that you're on my property. It's self-defense if you look, any kind of way. And I'll just say that. Who gives a shit? Like, don't be on my property trying to carve up a goddamn mini horse, you psycho. But,
yeah, exactly. Their property run the gamut of everything.
And that's
Sasquatch activity, strange occurrences, paranormal activity in the house, the lights, the strange lights, and then the mutilations. I mean, the horse was the one they had pictures of and physical evidence of. They
Yeah, I mean,
also had a
again,
goat that was
yeah,
same thing. The one thing that got me about the whole deal, it wasn't the fact that it was picked up and carried over the fence. It wasn't the fact that it was when it was carried about 100 yards away from the house. It wasn't the fact that it was disemboweled. It was the fact that there was no drag or blood at all. The
well, you said
last,
all the everything had been taken out of it too, right?
everything had been taken out of it. It been split from here, from the base of the neck all the way down to the groin,
Yep.
and everything had been taken. And then there was, and I've seen pictures of this before in
Yeah.
Idaho, um,
Yeah.
um, North Dakota, South Dakota, where that all that stuff happened at hole in the
Utah.
right Utah, and the left rear hind quarter there, a hole like this
Yep.
cut out, and it's around the bone. Around the
Yep.
bone,
Yeah.
it's totally taken away. The bone is fine, picked clean, like it's been polished,
Yep.
and it's like, what the
Fucking weird.
hell did that?
So, that's another weird thing, and that's what Not to. I'm not going to digress too much on this, um, because I'm not talking about the case itself. But when I was talking to you about that the dog that was killed in Idaho, the weird,
Mm-hmm.
the one that was skinned before
The
those
students were
students were killed.
killed. Mm-hmm.
What was weird to me, why I brought that up to you, wasn't because those kids it was actually the similarities. The thing is skinned. Nobody hears a damn thing. The dog next door freaks the fuck out the next day when they do find the dog. Like it tears its bed apart, the neighbor's dog, which is kind of odd. It's like, senses something, but again, it could just be dog behavior. Here's the two things that fucked me up. It's a miniature Australian Shepherd. And I know it's like a very loose correlation, but it's like mini horse. And I'm like, but in my lifetime, I'm going to be 38. I never heard of two fucking weird parallels like that, because those are very specific animals too. Very specific animals. I mean, people have them, but it's just, it's weird. But the number one thing is whatever did this to the horse refastened the jacket. Did it not? It refastened the jacket, left it by it. The little horse. Well, with this dog, they refastened its collar and left it by it. So it's like, to me, yeah, the mini thing's kind of weird, whatever. It's very loose. It can be dismissed very easily. That, though, is bizarre to me. Two animals being brutally killed, mutilated, and whoever did it, left the jacket of the horse and then took the collar and left the collar, refastened both, left them intact, no blood on them. That, to me, I don't know. It's very weird. That's an MO at some point. That has to be looked at like there's a continuity there, that something is brutally mutilating things. I mean, because who knows how many of these reports exist? If you want to dive into it, you can. But how many of these reports of like animal mutilations where something like this occurs? Because that's just bizarre to me, man. Mm-hmm. Why would they like if an animal's tearing the hell out of either one? If it was an animal, they absolutely, which I don't think it is. They're not going to. The jacket's going to be shredded. Whatever. Right. The collar's probably going to still be something's going to. It's going to have blood on it at least. These were placed with intent and purpose. Mm-hmm. In the brutality of the both acts, it's just like, can you rule human activity out 100%? No.
Right.
But I need you to walk me through it. Mm-hmm. And make it make sense just as much as the crazy shit I'm saying. It's going to sound pretty crazy trying to walk me through that, because who in the hell did this to this horse and then carried this? I mean, the horse thing is beyond probably one of the weirder things. And I asked a couple people too. I asked, about any kind of occult activity, someone very well versed in spiritualism and knows all this shit, asked about what kind of, if there's any kind of rituals or occult thing that, she'd ever heard of that would be linked to what happened to that horse, and said, very loosely, yeah, maybe, but like it's not something she had come across in all the time she's been doing that. Never had heard of that or anything like that. Like you wouldn't, it's just weird to take all of the organs and then to take the body later. Like it's just almost impossible. but also it just doesn't parlay into, you know, most occult activities. Like the goat thing, it's almost like a diversion of some. I don't know. It's because that was what you could think is related to that. But I mean, if it's a person, man, it's more frightening almost in a way, because who the hell's able to pull this kind of thing off?
Right.
I don't think it's a person though. I just don't.
There were tufts of hair, and that's about it. You
Yeah,
know, anybody who's hunted and had to field dress their animal of any size, deer, bear, whatever, you're going to leave blood. If you know, it's going to happen. It's going to be kind of messy unless you've laid a tarp down. And who's doing that?
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that's not what happened. Okay, okay. Let's just say that they laid this huge tarp down. They meaning whoever did this, and did their handiwork right then and there. This was precision. This is a precision cut. I mean, laser cut, right? And it's through the bone. Then you've got no blood whatsoever.
yeah. It's just I don't see that being a possible. That's almost an impossibility, man. That's just otherworldly. I mean, how do you not get it? No one's that careful. Nobody is that careful. They're just not. It's not possible. I
Right.
mean, you could do cleanup afterward, but I mean, you're talking about outside. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, you have to have somebody really thoroughly comb the site for anything too, like really get in there with like forensics. Nobody's going to do that over an animal, but I think I don't know. I know that if I ever, I'm not going to be, ever was in charge of anything, my thing was if this is happening frequently enough or it's whatever, I would say, yeah, we might need to look at this at least once. Send a damn, you know, Fish and Wildlife out, really examine the site, really examine the site. If we do need to use any kind of like, you know, I guess forensic science, but again, I wouldn't do it off of just one. If it started being a pattern in my a certain radius, yeah, I mean, like it is out west with cattle, I would need to look at this and kind of say definitively one way or another, do we know what's doing this or do we not? And because it's like this is happening, these incidents happen far too often to be comfortable with them, is what I'm saying. Like this world, we have so much thrown at us that we normalize chaos, we normalize uh, things to file away, compartmentalize. But my thing is I don't think we should. We should definitely, when something's anomalous or strange or just of this variety, I think a little bit more inspection might be necessary, and in an official capacity at least.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather them just say they don't know. I wouldn't lose faith in anybody. I would just say, well, at least they looked. Shit, we don't know. I don't know. Watch the hell out, I guess. I mean, shit. Like, be careful. I mean, then again, they did try to do that with Skinwalker Ranch, and they didn't really get much. So it's almost
Right.
like that place is a whole other thing. Oh, that's a whole other thing. That's I believe there are things in this world. There are maybe, I don't know, doorways almost or something. And if there ever was one, it's that what is it, Uten Basin, that area. It's
Mm-hmm.
fucking really bizarre. Again, people can make up cool sci-fi shit, but like just like I did, you saw me struggling slightly over it. Man, you gotta have that down. You have to have that down in your mind completely, and you can never stray. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem. When you're making shit up, you're lying. Your story's gonna stray a little bit every time. It won't be as consistent if you're telling the truth, and that's the trouble. Is sometimes these things are too consistent for me, and that's where I just don't get why people are like, "What are you gonna do?" It's like, no, you need to look at it, man. Like,
Right.
and so I don't know. I mean, it's definitely bizarre. I mean, we had animal mutilations out here, and I didn't see pictures, but I mean, similar kind of thing. No tracks. Seven, what is it? 6 or 7 llamas killed. Seven, six or it's 13 total were either killed or suffered mutilations, injuries, but they never found out what did it. Never found any tracks. Never found. I mean, there's no apex predator I can think of that could do that to a pack of llamas. They're mean. They stomp the shit out. And then for two donkeys to be killed slightly thereafter, 6 miles away, in a similar fashion, it's just donkeys are even worse. I mean, I've seen a donkey pick a coyote up, break his fucking neck, and it stomp on it until it was mush. Like a donkey will make sure you're dead well after you're dead. So again, those are the only ones I've seen in this, and weird in an urban setting in our city. Even if it is kind of in farms tucked away or whatever, it's still within a very urban setting and very bizarre. And I don't know. I mean, what is doing these things? And I don't know. I mean, do you think that these reports or sightings, whatever you want to call them, do you think there's been an uptick since 2019, 2020, or what's your take there?
I think there has been, and I think it has to do with the pandemic and everybody being home and not being able to be exposed to other things that distract them, from the outside. A lot of
Yeah.
people getting back in touch with, because they have to be cooped up all the time.
Yeah.
They would step outside and spend a little bit more time in nature, and then next thing you know, you have an uptick in sightings, whether it be paranormal, UFO, or cryptid.
Yeah, UFO in California for sure. That's what I noticed. A lot of 2020, particularly for California, and just I looking through all this, I saw a bunch of 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and I'm like, I know it's some people probably, out of all the reports, some are going to be probably imaginative, but I don't think all of them are for certain. I wouldn't say that. I would say there are a lot of them, especially the UFO, that are odd. And it's almost like you and I discussed disclosure and how that bullshit, how they just kind of like, oh, the pandemic, like, look at this. And it's like, bro, we're dealing with a pandemic right now. Can you table this shit? You should have told us 50 years ago. We're fine right now. Like, nobody cares.
Right.
And I told them, like, well, that's why we did it. See you later. And then it's like, so it's odd, though, that there's an uptick in all that stuff. And just anomalous activity overall. Like, being out in nature, I've had, again, my experiences stopped 2005. And then I didn't have any until 2019, right before the pandemic, actually, November. And then they continued sporadically until this year, May 2021. And I haven't had anything really since. I've had little one-offs, mostly electronic disturbances is what I've noticed. If I had to do a chart, it would be electronic disturbances being the number one, like TVs turning on and off on their own.
Right.
Just other weird shit like that, like things playing on their own. But I don't really know. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing that's been, and it has nothing to do with electronics. It has to do with me. And I've talked to a couple of other people who have been having this weird thing happen to them. Building up a static electric charge. And this has been going on for a while. And it's not just in cold weather. It used to be cold weather. You're a kid, you drag your feet across the carpet, and it's fun to shock stuff to see that spark. Well, me here lately, the last couple of months, even before it got really cold, I've noticed I've been building up this static electric charge for whatever reason. And especially when I'm in my vehicle. And I'll get out my vehicle and I'm scared to touch the door because the last couple of times I popped myself pretty good and it hurts.
That's interesting. I haven't had any static until the other day when it got like below negative or whatever, -6 here. Mm-hmm. I started noticing it that next day, but otherwise I hadn't really. No, I have had a weird, just I don't know what I call it. It's like my restless nature. Like I do get these weird little bouts like that where I just get kind of restless for no reason. And like it is almost like I not a I don't know, maybe like a chart. Yeah, like kind of just the atmosphere feels different. I don't know how to put it.
Mm, I believe that.
So
But
similarly to what you're kind of talking about, it's like different periods feel different for some reason or different. I don't know how to put it. It's just these bouts just pop up and then it goes away. It's like
mhm.
nothing. And that's when I had one of that little where TV just kept turning on uh, for no reason, and then some other thing came on, and I'm like, you know, happens once, and I'm like, okay. Happens twice, and I'm like, okay. And then another time, I'm like, okay, cool. This is to me, it's kind of like, okay, this is weird. Like three times, I'm like, okay, cool. And I don't know why. I'm not afraid of it. I actually get kind of excited because I'm like, oh, it's back, sort of. But then it's like
Right.
hasn't nothing. But that's what I'm saying. It's just bizarre. Like it's nothing for it's just almost 6 months now. But it's like like I said, it's like an ebb and flow in the atmosphere almost, and maybe that manifests for all of us differently. Uh, you're becoming a super villain. It sounds like, and
Probably.
why am I able to move things with my the static electricity, like just able to pick your vehicle up and throw it around? I mean, that would actually be badass. I'm over here just like things are turning on. Yeah, that's what they do, jackass. Okay. No.
Yeah, Max is saying layer of clothing's rubbing against each other, cold weather, more layers. Yeah, I've thought about that too. And like I said, it happened before. I was having to
Yeah.
layer up.
And that's what I'm
And
saying. The only time it happened to me recently was when it was negative fucking 6.
right,
And
right.
I noticed it. I didn't notice. I mean, nothing like that. But I mean, yeah, with the more layers stuff, yeah. But if it's happening beforehand, and I'm sure that our region has similar weather as far as temperature and degrees. Like before this big cold front came through, I mean, I just here. I mean, I don't know if Virginia specifically, but it's pretty mild. It wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
cold. It was pretty mild,
Right.
like 50. It was actually like pretty couple days before this. It was nice. I actually went hiking out in an area. So, um, I mean, it's just there. Maybe this manifests differently, but it's just, I don't know. The more things I see, the more interest peaked. I don't know. Some people may be seeing what they want. Things are going to be hoaxes, absolutely. But again, out of 100 accounts, even if 20 are unexplainable and weren't hoax, whatever, that's still 20 that I'm like, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a percentage though. That's a thing. Like you have now created a percentage of things that you cannot explain. That's still an issue for me because it's like, well, I don't really need you to explain them. I need you to just get some baseline on this shit, get some baseline data.
Right.
You don't have to say this is what's causing it if you don't know. Just say, yeah, there's some weird shit going on right here, this sector here during this time, blah, blah, blah. Just record all the things like, I usually do a lot of climate recording with any accounts or any weirdness. I just temperature, time of day, if there's been precipitation, wind, all that stuff. Uh, I might even do like UV index, which I don't really know if that matters. It probably doesn't. But I still like to record all that because even if I can't explain what happened, I can say this is all that I recorded. At least if it does repeat, does it repeat on these with these conditions? Does it have no pattern? And that way you at least start to discern certain things. I mean, it's just very baseline stuff that I try to, you know, record it. So with anything I experience, but I don't really know. I mean, I definitely think uh, we're shifting though into something. I just have no
Let's
idea
see.
what.
Let's
We're,
see.
we're at a breaking point with everything. Like the conditions are perfect; they're ripe for this.
Oh yeah.
There's so much chaos happening in the world now, and chaos without accountability is how I look at it, and that's dangerous. And that's where we're at. Like I don't understand where we go from there. if it's, and that's not even getting into politics. I mean, it doesn't matter what side. I don't care. Both sides are fighting, and everybody's fighting. There's chaos everywhere. It doesn't even have to be. It's just people have gotten, there's lack of accountability on a lot of fronts, and that's worrisome because I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what's coming, but it feels like there is something. A shift is going to occur, and I don't. It has to, in a way, because the conditions are too far gone in a lot of ways.
I like that you brought that up. I've mentioned this before on this channel. Asking people if they felt a shift in energy or something just doesn't feel right anymore. And there's been a few people who have responded that said, yeah, they feel that shift. And I think it is. I think it's just something. I think it's something going on. Whether it's something going on with the Earth's polarity or what. I mean, there's got to be some type of scientific explanation.
Electromagnetic disturbances.
Mm-hmm.
Because studying what I do, all the shit, and this is why I've kind of gotten a little bit, I guess, a little bit disillusioned, to be honest, because there's reports that come out and they say climate change is happening, and absolutely is, but are we progressing it? Yes, we have. We're more though. It's not so much. It's getting hotter. We're killing off species since 1970. We're in our 6th mass extinction. We're destroying habitat. It's more about destroying habitat and disrupting the ecosystem and biomes. Yeah, it's going to get a little bit more severe weather events like we just had across the United States with all this shit. But it's more worrisome that we're devastating the flora and fauna. Because it's like we don't still know what's out there. And that's what's worrisome with some of the science. They said the ivory-billed woodpecker was extinct last year. And then they found one. So is it extinct or not? Who made the call on that? Who said, it's absolutely extinct, and then somebody else sees it? I want to ask you again, your opinion, you need to do some work evidently, because who the hell made the call that it was extinct when you found it literally the next year? Come on, dude. So that's where I kind of get a little disillusioned sometimes, is you see all this like really like everything is whatever. It's like, but is it? Mm-hmm. We can still easily, from a functional standpoint, repair a lot of the damage that's been done. We can. It's about attitude and the one. We don't do anything until it's too far gone. And it's, that's how a lot of things are, why they're crumbling infrastructure wise. But, we can repair a lot of this. It's just, do we want to? And so that's what's pushes back somewhat even on, cryptids or whatever you want to call these things being biological, is that even with some of the most, reclusive species, we have observed them. We just observed a type of, I think, a bird that we hadn't seen in 40 years, something like that. It's been a very long time since and it was just observed this year. So, a lot of these, even the reclusive ones, we do find, and it's funny, if we found a bird, the size of a fist, why can we not find a damn 9 foot, 12 foot tall, whatever you want to say, however big you want to call it, tall they are, ape walking around like a giant hairy, creature? Why can we not find? I mean, I know people say they see them, and I'm not taking away from that. I'm saying I'm hard pressed to understand how something is a biological entity, and with how much habitat destruction, we still have a lot of forests that a lot of people, forested areas people don't really go into and stuff. So yeah, that's fine. But in the Southeast, you start to get away from that a little bit. So my thing is just, I feel like if it was a biological, we would have had some observable data that we could kind of catalog, because people would absolutely want to do it. Like, it's not about not wanting to, it's people would love to. It'd be scientific discovery, blah, blah, blah. That's why I just lean towards it's something else. And the UFO connection, there is something in there that I'm missing. I don't know.
I
but
know.
it's something there,
I'm gonna
something to it. I feel like.
bringing this up.
Oh yes.
Bigfoot or big population effect. I want to bring this up real quick. This and reported sightings. Look at here, the 2000.
Yep. Interesting. I saw that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember looking at
So
that and I
go
was like,
back, and here we go.
Bigfoot hunter culture emerges. I don't know. I don't know why they labeled that, but it's pretty funny for some reason. And see, this is why it's important to the normalization, because if again though, what's fascinating, Washington State,
Mm-hmm.
even with normalization, bam, it is right there as always. No normalization, bam, right there with Bigfoot. Now UFOs drop off without normalization, but there's three maps here, three types that signify Washington State. There's something going on with that, and through that whole Pacific Northwest Western
Mm-hmm.
region right there, split
Mm-hmm.
down the middle. It's
Right.
very, very fascinating. When you group the two together, because it's just UFOs are more prevalent, and that's what I'm trying to. That's why I went off of the theory of looking at them first. Did they come first? And that's are they dropping them off? Like, did they try to replicate us and think these can be ambassadors or assimilated, and they'll tell us what's going on, and then they come back around like, oh God, they evolved too far. We came back,
Yeah.
way too late, something, and but maybe it's just a completely alien species altogether. I mean, um, people could even say they're a type of forest spirit, or even look at what we would label as the Fae. Like, are they a type of even Fae forest spirit like that? I mean, there's so many things that can be posited that you can't just disagree with, and I don't.
Right.
Biological even could still be, but I just have a hard time because I just feel like we would have come across them by now, especially with everything that we just how man encroaches on almost every area within his boundaries. I mean, people think that they own everything.
Oh yeah.
So it's really that's really where my mentality diverges from that, because I don't think we own a damn thing in this world. I think people think they do, but that land that you think that you own, once you're gone, you can leave it to somebody else. But it's not, we don't own anything. We're borrowing all of this
Mm-hmm.
energy. We're all energy beings. We've borrowed energy that we will give back one day, and it will be returned. And I just wish more people thought that way, because nature should be able to exist in its own right. It has an inherent right to exist. It's not strictly instrumental for us. It's not a tool. It's not a resource. We just take, 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 take. We should treat it as a separate entity of its own, and we just don't. It's sad, I guess, in a way, but it is what it is. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. We have to change our attitudes before we are able to really do anything.
We really do. We need to quit being assholes.
It'd be nice. I mean, that's the thing. Like, everybody, man, I don't remember a time in my life where everybody's just so damn at odds, and everything is just fact is
Everything.
just this and that. And I'm like, I don't know. I sit back and I'm like, anybody that I just not, I just don't have hero worship for anyone. All these people that are, I'm like, for one, I don't think anybody who works as an authority figure, or an office of any type serving, their constituents, should have a social media account. I feel like that's almost, you're asking for a data leak of some type, which
Right.
kind of happened. And so I just feel like we should get back to some principled things, and like we shouldn't just throw out crazy accusations. Like, it's just like, because we're just fighting each other. I've never in my life seen, and humanity's always been at odds with one another as far back as whatever. It's just now we have less, I guess, accountability. I feel like, I'm not sure. I don't really know. I just feel like there's less accountability for being negative or nasty, or doing wrong. It's just, my thing is sometimes you just go up to somebody and go, hey, you remember the bam, you fucking sock them right in the face. And you go, are we good? You can punch me back, actually, if you feel like it. We can make it even. I don't give a shit. Slug me as hard as you want, because I ain't gonna be mad afterward. I'm just gonna say, now we even, we good? All right, let's stop all the goofiness, and let's just be good, because I'm not gonna hold that shit against you. But sometimes you just need your bell rung. say, "You with us still? You still here?" And people need to realize, you know, if you can't say anything nice and you continue to not say anything nice after you've been told, yeah, you need to get your head slapped upside your head. But I think we could communicate before that and talk to each other, and just, you know, because right now we have the tools to do so much. I mean, look at this, Lee. 20 years ago, we couldn't have pulled all this shit up and done this right this. You know,
Right.
when I was doing this shit, I had to scour the internet just for anecdotal reports. Now we can say, look at these 5 maps. Now, what are you seeing here? And that's what I wish that we could just, like, we have no fast. It's like our imaginations are gone, because like this UFO disclosure shit, like it should be like a lot more. Holy shit! Like, what's going on here? Nobody cares.
Exactly.
Really.
I mean, here's one more picture I want to bring up. You know, this is the UFO sightings.
That one's very
Sasquatch sightings, and this is the population effect we looked at earlier.
This is what Matt. This is why I did this one, or I sent you this link because of what Matt said about the population, and that's what's interesting with the UFO. Again, you see a correlation to all the other maps where there's hot spots, and Florida pops up on this one a little bit more, but you still see it around the Indiana, Michigan area. You still see it over in Pennsylvania. Kind of, I think, if I'd have to zoom in on that, but I think that's around the Pennsylvania area. It's close enough. I don't care. But I mean, in Washington, all along the coast there. Now, that's another fascinating thing. Along the coast, on both of these maps, both of them, the coast, water.
Yeah.
Forests, green, and water. It really is. There's just something about it. Like along the coastal areas, there is big, you know, kind of the big cluster sections that this person's done on this map, which is did a good job on the map, actually. It's just, that's what fascinates me about this. And even on the Bigfoot one, it's along water, it's a long forested area, and then in the Midwest you kind of start seeing a big drop off from all that. Like both the Midwest on both of these maps, there's just not a whole lot. You see the concentrations along the coastal areas, you know, and then throughout Bigfoot's just a lot more dense throughout certain areas. But I don't know, that's just one thing to keep in mind for everybody is green and blue is how I look at it. Water and forest. I mean, it's pretty right there in front of you. It's not like a revelation I'm giving, but it's just very interesting to look at.
And this, what was this? This one right here I was looking at. And look at Alaska. I kind of find it funny that you see a lot more UFO report sightings than the Sasquatch sightings.
That's another. Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed. I don't think Alaska's data is fully fleshed out, and doing Alaska data per capita is it's a disservice to the state, to be honest, because it's just the population's not there for how big the landmass is.
Right.
But UFO, I mean, what's that? Oh man, they made a movie about it, which was sensationalized and all that stuff. But there's a certain town or city in LA, I can't think of it. It's not Barrow, but it's like Nome, Alaska. Nome, Alaska is very weird, and Alaska has actually got a lot of missing persons too that are kind of odd. But UFOs, actually, yeah, I've seen a lot more anecdotal. Like I said, Nome's like one of the areas. A lot of those southern kind of, or not southern, I'm sorry, the top, I guess the northernmost areas seem to have that. But on this map, it's like very concentrated along, again, sort of through that coast, like where the land and water meet. So along the top edge there, and then through the bottom edge, there's a whole lot of sightings. It's like, I mean, you could posit, I know people have posited that these things come out of the water, like they're, you know, actually already here, these ships, and they come out of the water, and that would be fun. I do like that one little ghost there on the by itself. Excuse me. That one little ghost there by itself, surrounded by UFOs, is kind of fun. On the very edge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, what's he doing? Who's getting haunted with? That's what I find fun about these maps is sometimes you just find little things. You're like, what the fuck? Like Indiana, what are you doing? Like, come on, man, get with it. Get a Sasquatch going, you son of a bitch. Like,
I
but
know,
that's
right?
Hoosiers for you. Ugh.
That's been a good talk, man. Been a
Yeah,
good talk.
absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I like to be able to kind of bring a geographic data uh, in the academic sense to it, I guess, because I'm sure there's people with more firsthand experience as far as being in these spots, but I've been, up along, I haven't gone to any of the really explore researching or whatever, but I've been up, Pennsylvania and stuff. I mean, mostly I just didn't like Philadelphia. So um, their whatever, their traffic is very odd. They have a lot of those, I can't think of the names now. They're not turnabouts. They're the little circular. I can't even think of the damn name. They've got like a ton of those. It's fucking infuriating. But yeah, Florida, Nanabasa, Florida is number 3. There are a lot of sites too that have the listed. Ohio comes up a lot, which I found very weird. Ohio, I mean, there's the Grassman, but
Right.
there's a couple parks that I know for certain. One I have to look. I think it's Salt something, and it's not very big, but there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings in it. And I was kind of like, what the hell? So Ohio's a really weird, kind of like in the top 10, usually pretty high as far as Bigfoot sightings too. But Florida's there, yeah, and I don't know. Alaska's one I just don't think is fully fleshed out. I don't think. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think the data is all the way there. So,
I can see that. I mean, you've got so many rural places up there, and people just don't talk about that stuff.
and yeah, Max is right about the data. Like it's along, like these are populated areas. Yeah, people are going to see them more.
Yeah.
I just, it's to me, I'm looking at it like I look at it as far as like along the coast, as far as there's water and there's green, and yeah, there's some of these are populated areas, but there's still a lot of forested area in between the cities that I'm even surprised how big some of these forests and national parks are. Um, but as far as like I said, I mean, yeah, data also it's what we're pulling from on this is demographic. It's also anecdotal. So you know, it you got to take all of it with a grain of salt because nobody has really been able to sit down and prove without a shadow, or replicate the results. Put it under a microscope like that. And so it's just kind of, yeah. And that's why I said the normalization will sometimes skew the results as far as like, it's interesting to look at them, but do I think that the results are skewed if they do normalize per capita? Yeah, absolutely. You're going to come back with Texas not coming up. You're going to come back with Alaska not really coming up. You're going to come back with Florida not really coming up. So that's where I like the data set. You can analyze them, but you also have to be wary of them. Are they normalized or not? And without normalization too, it's going to kind of be like, not. I'm trying to think how to say it. Without normalization, I wouldn't trust the results fully. Is basically what I would put it at.
Right.
Because it's just then you're just like, of course, California is going to have more reports than say a state like Kentucky. The one that really fascinates me is Washington State, again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Actually, no, there is data for it's just again these are land they're remote, and that's the thing. There's a lot of remoteness. Like I think Jeff with Pine Island, there is a lot of remoteness, and there's not as much human. He's absolutely right. So that's why a lot of those areas, like the data again, it's not going to fully represent what's on the ground. Again, we're looking at 2D representations too. Let's just all remember that. We're looking at 2D representations that someone else created and pulled from data that, yes, it looks good. And yes, some of them are reputable, but there's others that I look at and I'm like, it's just data that's been pulled. From where?
Right.
So we're looking at 2D until, you know, that discounts terrain. It discounts a whole lot of stuff looking at it like this. So that's why I say it's fun to look at, but until it only goes so far, I guess, with in some sense. Elevations should be on there, actually. I mean, elevations wouldn't be hard to figure out. I mean, ferns and moss, I don't know if that's, I mean, if you get to, the thing with some of the data, if you get so niche, you're going to have you're going to literally go from like 4 categories to 8 to 12. You're going to start going so far out that you'll have one account under this category. Then you'll have 5 accounts under this. And it's just like, how does this all, I mean, it's good to collect that stuff. I would, again, why someone did biomes, I think biomes are, again, pretty useful in that because it breaks it down as to just, I mean, I don't know if I still have that map. But it's just interesting because biomes, that way you can kind of tell where things like that, and that kind of covers the terrain, such. But elevation should be pretty, if you got coordinates and can go, you can go to Google Earth and just get the elevation that way. Just get the either coordinates or the whatever, boom, elevation's right there. You can measure distances, all kinds of stuff. Like, it's just how in depth do you want to go? Because after a while, it's like, again, you're going to get into category after category after category.
Mm-hmm.
Spores. Yeah. Jeff, you're absolutely, that's what I'm saying. It's not, that's what I was kind of getting at. The data can be skewed, and, you know, Montana, that's actually, I don't even saying that. That's a perfect example of what I'm saying, like getting at, like it's 30, you know, he's right, the remote wilderness and 120. So right. Those things, that's actually a barometer. That's a good kind of gauge right there as to how much, that's kind of a good category I would like put it down into, because yeah, otherwise the data can be skewed immensely from one to the other. So yeah, a big Venn diagram, that would be,
yep,
that'd be fun. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Establishing what data records, and that's where that's where a lot of everybody has to get together and come up with, like, what do we want to do, like, as far as what you want, what your categories are for fitting certain, and that's where I think classifications, Class A, Class B, Class C, like how they were kind of doing with, or how they do with VR, is pretty good as far as that. But yeah. Sorry, I just kind of responded to comments.
No, it's all good. It's a
cool debate to have. Like, it's fun because it's like, yeah, what do we look at? What do we notice? What are patterns, like, to know? Like, it's definitely interesting to look at all this and say, yeah, this is this. At the end of the day, I just it's pretty much theoretical because we don't really
absolutely.
Haven't been able to replicate any results yet, or test real hypotheses about this and have them come out, in a way that can be understood in a general sense, to have more people on board.
Right.
I mean, but Jeff, that was really, that's what I mean. Like, Montana, shit, it probably does. I mean, but how many have been reported? How many have said anything? I mean, whereas Florida, yeah, it's you can't compare the two states. They're totally different climates, totally different regions. Like, yeah, so
yep.
I agree with that statement. I like that.
This has been good conversation, man. I mean, it's good to have these type of conversations too.
Yeah, and I appreciate the technicality and stuff. Like, everybody, like that would be fun to come up with. Get everybody brainstorming and see what data points we want to, what categories and such. And it's just because it would absolutely be difficult to say this is this and this is that, and you know, and Max, yeah, right there, man, you're absolutely right, dude. Like that's exactly it, Max.
We don't really know
And that's how
squat.
I like how Max and Jeff think. It's very cool to see those, because it's like, it's just like there's so much, and it's like it's really cool because it's like what would we categorize, and I could sit here and write down everyone I think, but then it's like, does anyone else agree with that? I mean, maybe some, but not all, and they shouldn't. Because if anybody agreed with me fully, I would say, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to have me killed, or are you trying to marry me? Which one is it? But both. They're not mutually exclusive, but yeah, it's cool. I like to see the discussion and such. It's fun.
Dude, like I said, it's been great. Thank you for coming, man.
I appreciate. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I do.
Dude, when you told me about your research and I really wanted to have you on. Then one thing happened after another, and then the holidays happened, and I wanted to get you on as quick as I could because this is really interesting.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm just looking at stuff, and I know a little bit about. I mean, and I'm not the best at always getting my real whatever out there, just because it's depending on how the comfortability, which is not anybody's making me uncomfortable. It's just my own, anxiety sometimes. Because I'm like, I don't fully know what I'm talking about, and I'm not doing anything that's not anybody else can't say. I'm just look it up yourself. I'm not doing anything like that's, I think, novel or super whatever. So that's why I don't always know how to articulate. But it's just a lot of this. Yeah, I look at things and I'm just like pattern, interesting. Note it, file away. Right. You see other pattern, and that's what Max is kind of getting at too, and that's where it'd be so neat to kind of like sit down and say, "What do you think of this category?" And then him, no, and I'm like, "All right, cool. What about this one?" and it's really cool. I like that. So thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome, man. Like I appreciate it. Listen, everybody, we went, there's a long show today, an hour and 41 minutes, but there was a lot to talk about, a lot to try and fit in, and there's still a lot to talk about. But unfortunately, I got to run, and I'm pressed for time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everyone, for coming by and hanging out with us this morning. You could have been somewhere else, but you were here with us. Thank you. You're what's float. You are the source of information that floats this boat. Really, you are. You guys are great. Thanks, Max, for stopping by. Papa C. Bat Mom, sorry I missed you. Didn't say much to you today. I was just caught up in the conversation. Usually I'm a little bit more active with the chat than I am. Thanks, Jeff, for stopping by and adding to the conversation. Jay Fritz, thank you. Globe Asunder. Let's see. Who else?
Nona Boss. I don't know if
Nona. Yeah, Marty. She's great. Yeah.
She's the eyes that say
Lorette, thank you for coming by. Let's see. LaSwee Machine. Good to see you. Uncle Bones. Good to see you. Now, if I've missed anybody, I do apologize. And hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back on 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Grab your favorite beverage and sit down and let's chat. Thanks, everybody. Until tomorrow. Y'all have a great day. I love you, mean it. Bye.